Hello, everyone. Kelly here from MJ Biz. Thank you for joining us for today's LinkedIn Live. We are thrilled to bring you a behind the scenes view of the making behind the certified Ganjier program and the new Ganjier product specialist training, which not only is helping develop industry standards in a common language, but also upping the game of growers, manufacturers, retailers, and cannabis related businesses around the world. We're super excited to be bringing their esteemed program to MJ BizCon this December 3rd to 6th in Las Vegas. This partnership pairs Gangier's online program with the in-person experience of MJ BizCon, from the expo floor to 200 plus featured speakers and conference sessions, and so much more. The MJ BizCon experience will also include a tasting and aroma training at a consumption lounge during MJ BizCon week. So don't miss that. To get things started, I'm going to kick things over to Chris Kasakia, who's editor of our MJ Biz Retail and Brand newsletter, to moderate today's panel. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Kelly, for the intro. I am happy to be here this Friday. I am really looking forward to talking with some executives at Ganjier and some of their educators and just telling us exactly, how this program works, what we're going to see at MJ BizCon. There's going to be a new feature for us, so we are very stoked that we're going to have this greenlit on the showroom floor. And I think, these topics, these discussions just kind of further what we're all trying to do here is normalize the plant, mainstream the plant. And I'd like to begin our conversation by bringing on Max Simon. Max is the CEO and co-founder of Green Flower and Ganjier. Max, welcome. Happy Friday. Good to see you. I appreciate you taking out time and talking with us today. No.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Really happy to be here. Derek and I, back in years ago, I think it was 2017, we just felt like there was a need to have this sommelier level certification in the cannabis industry. And when we got the idea, there was nobody better for us to approach than Kevin Jodrey, who had coined the term Ganjier already and was using it as this representation of a kind of a master of cannabis. And so we came to Kev, who was already an expert in our universe, and asked if he'd be willing to become a co-founder and partner with us in building this. And the rest is history, if you will. And so we spent 3 years together, bringing together this council of industry professionals that developed this core certified Ganjier curriculum. We started with a level 2, which is kind of more akin to a level 2 wine sommelier or a certified cicerone in the beer world, if you will. And it created this year-long, very intensive program that covered all facets of cannabis, cannabis product knowledge, cannabis production knowledge, cannabis history, cannabis botany, as well as we built a really rigorous assessment protocol for assessing the quality of flower and concentrates. We call it the Systematic Assessment Protocol, or the SAP. And we rolled that program out in 2020. And now, a few years later, we have over 300 certified Ganjiers that have gone through that program. We have a campus now in beautiful Humboldt. You'll see Derek in the background there. And we've built this really amazing community of people who care very deeply about being a master of cannabis service, about representing the qualities of cannabis from an integrity and accuracy standpoint, and communicating that knowledge out to consumers and building products that create the framework for that quality standards. But then, as we got into the program deeper and deeper, we realized that year-long, very intensive program, as great as it was, also was inaccessible for certain people. And so this year we launched the level 1, which is the Ganjier product specialist. It's about 10 hours of a training. It's very narrow in terms of its focus on really understanding cannabis products, the categories in cannabis products, the nuances of how all those products are made. And that's why you'll hear from Kevin and Guy today, who are both instructors in that program. And we're really thrilled to be partnering with MJ Biz to bring that qualification into the fold of the show this year and letting people experience it as part of the MJ Biz experience.
Max, maybe talk a little bit about the folks who went through the academy in the level 2 and kind of what prompted them to, is it in Humboldt? Maybe just let us know that. And then this level one, if you're seeing a different types of cohorts, and then let's get this back to how this may affect companies leadership, or how this is filtering back into the business community, right? Because that's where we all kind of play.
Yeah, so the certified Ganjier level, it takes about a year to complete. It has about 40 hours of online material that covers, everything that you'd kind of ever want to know about the cannabis plant and cannabis products and cannabis consumption and cannabis assessment. And then it does lead into a 2-day live assessment training out there in Humboldt. That's where Derek is today at the Ganjier campus, where you spend 2 days very much like a wine sommelier, really refining your palate. You go through all the tasting mechanism. You develop this protocol that goes through appearance and flavor and aroma and experience as the categories of assessing flowers and concentrates. And there's so much nuance in how you do those things and understand those things. And it concludes actually with a in-person 3-part exam that is quite difficult. We have about a 70% pass rate right now on that certified Ganjier exam. And the people that go through it, I think they're the ones that first have a really deep relationship with the plant. There's a specialness and a magic to Ganjier that happens when you really dive into understanding the nuances of appearance, of flavor, of experience, and understanding what qualitative factors and quantitative factors create those experiences. And so you do it for the love, but you also do it because it makes you so much more sophisticated in whether you're making products, whether you're selling products, whether you're distributing those products, whether you're marketing those products. You become a real expert in the category of cannabis product knowledge. And it's an amazing experience that oftentimes is very transformative for people personally, because it's the first time you can really get geeky with cannabis with no shame. We get really geeky with this stuff into understanding, what dictates quality, flavor, all these kinds of attributes. And so I think the people that have come to that have been very much in leadership roles. We have a lot of people that, whether they started in one place in the industry, have elevated to running their divisions or running the companies in some cases, because the depth of knowledge they get from this and the credibility they get allows them to be that much more sophisticated in their understanding of how they approach cannabis as a business. And when we built GPS, the Ganjier Product Specialist, the program we've partnered with MJ Biz, we really built that for everybody else to be an entry point into the business. And so we're finding, Kiva bought it for all of their sales and brand managers.
Nice.
Curaleaf brought a huge amount of seats to bring throughout their product teams and marketing and sales teams, so that they could make sure that those people that are, on the front lines dealing the day-to-day business are credible and trustworthy and have some representation to know what they're talking about. And so that's always the 2-part factor of good education: is the knowledge itself is valuable, but the credential, the achieving the accreditation helps you become a more reputable person in the market. And that also lifts performance and allows people to feel stronger in the industry. So it's been really amazing, because very early on, this new level 1 Ganjier Product Specialist program has had tremendous adoption with Kiva and Curaleaf and Cookies and Parallel and all these groups embracing it as a way to lift up their people and also make sure that their people perform at an even higher level.
Yeah, and of course, professional development, is a key as this industry matures and gets a little bit more sophisticated. This is all kind of baked in to, just what is happening in every other industry, what has happened in every other industries, this growing up process, and, adding more sophistication. And of course, these types of programs are doing exactly that.
And I don't need to say it, but cannabis does have a little bit of a credibility issue in all facets. There's still a lot of stigma, which is one level of facet. There's a lot of people inside the industry that candidly are in positions of power but don't necessarily know what they're talking about. And there's a lot of people that are coming in that are brand new. And all of that creates this soup where it's really important to have trusted people. It's really important to have a standard of knowledge and excellence. And it's really important to create this baseline level of trust within this industry. And so that's really what this Ganjier Product Specialist program is really intending to do, is create a base level of credibility and trust inside of the cannabis industry. And I feel really excited that partnerships like this and the companies that are adopting it are really moving that very far down the field quickly.
Yeah, I mean, and do you feel like these types of programs, I mean, because obviously, cannabis companies, as we all know, are facing a litany of challenges across the board, across the chain. And the bottom line is often, the most important, but of course, they need to be well-rounded companies and providing these mechanisms to improve your workforce, help retain your workforce. Obviously, that is another major challenge in the industry. Again, it feels like, maybe talk a little bit about where these companies are finding opportunities to do this, given that, they have so many other issues at hand, and their viability and vitality, of course, is one of them.
Well, let's call something as it is, that the biggest expense in all these operations is the people.
Mhm.
And when you talk about the fact that there's either such huge turnover in these organizations, which is way more costly than retaining their people, and you talk about the fact that north of 50% of new employees are coming in from outside of cannabis, what
Very
I can
true.
tell you is that all of these things are much greater costs than actually providing good training and good upskilling for your people. And
Yep.
furthermore, not only is it much cheaper than dealing with all of that other stuff, but what we know absolutely unequivocally at this point is that companies that invest in their people have much greater retention, have much greater team culture, have much greater contributions. And those people will tell you that they are performing at a much higher level and driving better results for the company. And so it does take a little education for operators to understand that this is a cost saving mechanism. But the reality of it is that this is a cost saving mechanism that will also improve the performance and results of the business. And so it actually has a kind of a double positive to it for operators.
Great point there, Max. What I want to do is bring in Derek Gilman here to talk a little bit about his journey in the cannabis space. Derek is managing director of Ganjier and legacy cultivator, an on-air host, and creator of the Grower's Quest, High Rollers, and Quick Hits. He teaches connoisseurship and assessment courses. Derek, I want to welcome you here to the panel. It is great to see you. Tell us about the beautiful background behind you, and give us a little bit a taste of what folks can expect to see on this partnership with Ganjier and MJ BizCon this year.
Yeah, for sure. Hey there, everybody. I am in Southern Humboldt at the Ganjier campus, in the heart of the Emerald Triangle. We have a beautiful 250-acre campus here, in the hills of Southern Humboldt, smack in the middle of all the action, smack in the middle of where this cannabis legacy has been established over the last several decades. Ganjier product specialist, that we've partnered with MJ Biz, was specifically tailored to empower anyone throughout the cannabis supply chain, starting with the geneticist, through the cultivator, through the processors, the people driving the trucks, to obviously the retailers, the managers of shops, sales reps, and even ultimately the consumer themselves. So we have 17 lessons in the Ganjier Product Specialist program. As Max mentioned, it's approximately 10 hours of exclusively online content, both video and written reading content. The idea was to, again, empower the student with a exceptionally deep and broad knowledge about each of the various cannabis product categories. Everything from obviously the flower to each of the various forms of concentrates, whether it be BHO or rosin or traditional hashish, to topicals, tinctures, edibles, suppositories, all the various ways that someone can consume cannabis. We discuss and explore each of the manufacturing processes aligned with each of those product categories. We talk about the various ingredients, how those ingredients impact the end quality of each of these products. Once we've covered the products themselves, we then cover how to best use those products. Unlike beer or wine, where there's pretty much a singular modality of consumption, which is drinking it, in cannabis, yes, there's cannabis beverages and you can drink it. There's topicals, but each of these modalities of consumption, there's ways to maximize the benefits for the consumer. Inhalables, whether it be a pre-roll or flower or a concentrate, there's lots of different tools and methods for smoking or vaporizing cannabis flower or concentrates. Everything, from a 3-hole bowl to a Puffco proxy, to a dab rig, to a joint, to a pre-roll. And each of these methods, there's ways to kind of maximize both the efficacy and the enjoyment of the consumption experience. So we cover all of that. We then dive into the assessment of each of these products. So now you learned about them, you learned how to consume them. So then we discuss how to assess quality. And we go through the assessment protocol that Max just mentioned. But beyond that, we've also included a scaled down version of our certified level assessment protocol. And we include that in GPS as well. We call it the personal assessment log, your cannabis pal. And with your cannabis pal, it will guide you through this interactive journey of assessing cannabis flower, concentrates, or pre-rolls. And with this tool, you not only get the opportunity to begin practicing assessment and refining your assessment skills, but with the app, it records these assessments. So now you're empowered and equipped with the information to communicate this assessment to clients and consumers.
And Derek, maybe talk a little bit about how we're going to see this kind of activated at MJ BizCon, and the type of folks that are enrolling or will enroll, and how this will kind of just add to your kind of overall offerings.
Absolutely. We're excited to have partnered with MJ Biz, and through MJ Biz's, they have several ticket tier options that they're making available. And in a couple of these ticket tier options, they have bundled in the Ganjier Product Specialist program. The idea being, for everyone who signs up and gets immediate access to the Ganjier Product Specialist program, the idea being that they go through the courses. Okay, it's only about 10 hours. You go through these courses leading up to MJ Biz. You come out to MJ Biz in Las Vegas. We're going to have a room set up where you can sit for the exams there at the event and become and earn your credential, effectively, your Ganjier Product Specialist credential, provided you pass the exam, of course. Beyond the on-site exams, we're also going to have a very exciting consumption event that we've partnered with MJ Biz. At this consumption event, we're going to have several different interactive stations. We've discussed this assessment protocol, right? So we're going to have an aroma station where we will guide our students through the different aroma categories: fruit, fuel, floral, earth, or sweet. We'll have samples there to identify each of these categories, the nuances of the aroma, the complexity of the aroma. We'll have an appearance station set up. We're going to have a digital microscope set up where we will be walking through the various nuances of assessing flower, from identifying whether or not there's a contaminant on the flower, to looking at the trichome coverage, to looking at how intact those trichomes are. We are further going to have a flavor station set up. We are going to have a hookah with some traditional hashish in this quasar bowl that's going to allow us to vaporize this traditional hashish and really experience the subtleties of the flavor. If you've never tried a hookah and a quasar bowl, if this all sounds foreign to you, you'll learn about it through GPS. But if you sign up through MJ Biz, through this program, you're going to get the opportunity to experience it firsthand yourself as well.
I love it. I mean, I think it's fantastic that we're finally moving these types of consumption events into Las Vegas, and they're going to be part of our conference. I feel like, this consumption aspect is really kind of one of the new, one of the next iterations of retail and events and hospitality. Obviously, we need regulators and cities and states and counties to, give these approvals, but this is an important just development in the space, no doubt about it.
100%. And so ultimately, sorry to interrupt,
No,
ultimately,
no,
we're
all
going to have
good.
a graduation ceremony at MJ Biz for all of the students that came through the program and successfully passed the exams at MJ Biz. So it's going to be a wonderful celebration. Everyone's going to get to be acknowledged and hopefully earn a credential along the way as well.
Do you think, Derek, this type of added program is ideal for, like, I foresee, like, bud tenders, someone that interacts, the kind of the gatekeepers, if you will, to retail, that are, really kind of walking consumers through products and SKUs. I think it would be ideal to get them kind of involved in this. Who do you kind of see as these initial adopters of this program or enrollees?
Undoubtedly, the bud tender, undoubtedly the retail professional who has the responsibility to guide each of the various types of consumers that are coming through the door on a daily basis, from the first time consumer that's maybe it's a senior that's never even touched cannabis before or even seen it in person, to the experienced connoisseur who has some very detailed questions and knows very much what they're looking for. Okay, so through the Ganjier Product Specialist Program, again, we equip everyone, each of the students, with the knowledge that's necessary to accurately guide consumers based on their goals, desires, and budget. So through this program, again, we go through all the different products. We have a business component in the Ganjier Product Specialist Program as well that discusses how to best curate your menu based on the demographic you're serving.
Oh,
Not
interesting.
every because dispensaries are in different neighborhoods, they're in
Of
different
course.
cities, and depending on where they're located, they're catering to different consumers, to different tastes, different age demographics, different preferences, different budgets. And so again, in the program, we equip dispensary managers and owners with the tools to begin better curating the menu to better reflect the demographic they're serving, and then ultimately, hopefully, move some more product along the way.
Absolutely, absolutely. Kudos to that. Cheers to that. Derek, I really appreciate your time. I do want to bring in some of these Ganjier educators here. I'd like to introduce Guy Rocourt, co-founder and former CEO at Papa Barkley, former chief product officer, cannabis lobbyist, advocate, and Ganjier educator. Teaches a lot about edibles, topicals, tinctures, and more. And also Kevin Jodry, who was talked about earlier. Max brought him up. Kevin is a mastermind behind the original Ganjier concept. He's a renowned breeder and cultivator, founder of Port Royal and Wonderland Nursery, and instructor of cultivation and genetic courses. Guy and Kevin, I want to welcome you guys here. I'm so happy you guys are joining us here on Friday. I'm going to give you the floor and just talk about, your journey with cannabis, the plant, normalizing the plant, how you ultimately, found your way to Ganjier and what you guys are doing right now.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having us.
Awesome too. Take the floor, Guy.
Oh yeah. So I don't, my history in cannabis goes back about 25 years ago. I used cannabis like most young folks, but at one point I was in the movie industry and I worked with Montel Williams, and he came out on our movie with MS. And that was the first time I really saw, oh, wow, cannabis really has true medicinal potential, especially as it relates to autoimmune diseases. And so that advocacy really started to inspire me. At one point, I got a job here in Los Angeles working at Paramount and started to see what was happening in the 215 system. And I started a small cultivation, and I like to say 2 lights became 4 lights, became no doc loans. And before you know it, we're providing safe access, and we're trying to push this thing that this is the dream. I mean, I want to say that no matter what's going on in our industry, every day I wake up in gratitude that we are living the dream. I think Swami, another Ganjier, said that, we've won this war on drugs. We're just really negotiating the surrender. So when we talk about legislators and their misconceptions, the data around cannabis hasn't changed. It's just, they're just seeing it. And one of the things that drew me to Green Flower Media and the Ganjier program was when I first met Max, I think maybe 8 years ago at their studio in Burbank. It was like, oh, every industry needs education, common nomenclature, just agreement on some basic facts so that we can all be speaking the same language, right? Regardless of businesses need to compete, so on, consumers need to make decisions for themselves, but it's really hard without common language. And in our prohibition, because we were all undercover, we were advocating and saying, yeah, this plan is great, but we weren't focused on the things that we should be focused on now, which is kind of educating consumers. And Chris, I like what you said at the end there. It's like where we are now is about experience. I think as people start to destigmatize themselves from cannabis and leave their cannabis shame behind, now they can focus on the experience. For too long, we've looked at cannabis as just drug culture, but now kind of like wine or beer or food, it's about the experience, and experience is always enhanced by education. So that's where how I kind of came to this.
For so long, Guy, as you well know, we were like in the shadows, in our cars, in alleys, whatever, in the woods, and now we're finally can come out, right, and celebrate as we should be able to, especially as, this is legal now in over 20 states. And if you're talking about medical, almost 40 states, the majority of the United States is legal. And obviously we have, a couple of big states that could go green here very shortly, in November. Kevin, let's bring you into the conversation. Let's talk a little bit about your history with the plants and what you're trying to accomplish as an educator.
Great, man. Thanks for having me. Gosh, I've been involved with cannabis a long time. 1978, I started, and I'm from, before the medical era. So I got a felony for cultivation in 1983 when I was in high school. So it kind of alters the course of your life. But my fascination with cannabis and my belief that it was a holistic wonder, that once we were able to really understand how to look at the plant and go backwards in time and realize that the plant was integral to human development, that if you really take a look, the human being evolved with cannabis. And I just kind of progressed through my whole life. And so I developed the first real nursery in the United States. That was Wonderland. I took that and merged it with Cookies. And so now I'm Cookies Research and Development, where we do all the development for Cookies Global. I was able to begin working with Max and Derek in Green Flower before we did the Ganjier. And so I'm in 60 universities around the United States, which just blows my mind. They had an idea to create this incredible program, and I was just honored to be asked to be part of it. And what we were able to do was we were able to really start bringing together a common language and understanding so that people, when they communicated, would be able to get the desired result. And what I saw through dispensary ownerships, I've had dispensaries for over 15 years, is that most people are very undereducated on the complexities of the new world of cannabis because the products are moving so quickly. And so when we sat down and said, what is really needed in the industry, we knew we needed to get assessment so that individuals would understand how to evaluate product. But they also needed to understand the incredible array of products that were being developed and pushed into the system. And that's both for customer and for the business. They both need the information, because if you don't know how to use the tools, then it's not an effective system. And if individuals come into storefronts and request information to find satisfaction in their transaction, it's very difficult. And I think of the weight that's put on bud tenders is incredible. And they take a lot of heat for not being this ultra educated individual. But in an industry that's moving so fast, how can anybody at introductory level of a job be so knowledgeable? And that's really what drove us to create this program, was something that was absolutely current. What is taking place today? How do you look at these products? How do you understand usefulness? And how do you convey that in a way that's transferable? So it's simply spoken, but accurately conveyed. And I think that we did a really great job, and I'm just thrilled to be part of the program, and I'm stoked that we got to bring in some really new Ganjier members. So Guy came on board. We had Josh come on board. We had Lena come on board, and people that I just really respect for their craft and knowledge in the industry. And it just turned out to be a fantastic project. And I'm stoked that MJ Biz was so happy to tag along and play with us on the project, because your platform's incredible. And it just validates the work. The validation that Curaleaf and Cookies and Kiva all have heavy adoption of it, and the public will be able to be accessing the same info. It's just pretty awesome. It still blows my mind that we get to do this publicly in this way after all these years.
Absolutely. I think, and kudos to LinkedIn, because obviously, as we know, some networks we can't do this on still, even though, I mean, that's another battle, another conversation for another day.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe talk about, guys, about just the role you guys are playing in kind of normalizing discussions about the plants, education, and really kind of pushing this into, kind of a mainstream kind of arena, which where we've seen this happen, in virtually every other industry, especially when we're talking about consumables. Of course, craft beer, wine, come to mind, cheese, also. Maybe just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I agree with Kevin that, things are moving super fast, but also we have a history, thousands of years, that also needs to be understood about this plant, like natural plant medicine, even what we were making in during Prohibition. For me as a formulator, I came out the gate, started a company in Colorado doing light hydrocarbon extracts. Immediately, I thought that during Prohibition as a young grower, all I wanted was like short path distillation machines. The first time I saw that, the ability to create diamonds and clear. And it was like, oh, I want all this technology. And I was blessed to meet my partner at Papa Barkley and realize, oh, wait, what I've been doing before that was what was grown in grandma's garden and made in grandma's kitchen. Maybe I should get that right first and commercialize that right first. So definitely one of the things I appreciate about doing the Ganjier Product Specialist program was the ability to articulate, okay, these are natural plant-made formulations, and this is where it's going. And sure, we have lots of modern technology, and eventually the feds will back off and universities will really be able to research this. And perhaps we are eventually leading to that pharma drug that does great things for cancer. I really believe that the cannabinoid molecules and their manipulation will lead to tremendous things, but we also have this great anecdotal evidence of this plant being with us for thousands of years, and formulations like Bang, a milk lipid infusion, simple, keef made in Afghanistan, typical hash made, all over Europe and here in the United States. Getting those things right, understanding their value, and of course, understanding how to grow good flower. One of the things you said, Chris, is like, we're out of the woods. Exactly. I grew as an indoor grower, raised my family that way, and I would never disrespect anybody. But this notion that indoor flowers versus outdoor flowers, that's an old meme. Because now here, like you look behind Derek, rolling hills of cannabis plants using the power of the sun, that's the way forward. Now that we understand sustainability, which is another thing that we talk about in the specialist program, it's like we have a new industry that gets to learn off of every other industry. Every advocate that I ever advocated with had a green heart. It wasn't just about cannabis. It was usually about these larger, greener issues. And we get to express that. And we get to encourage not only the bud tender level, the consumers, but even companies as they're going through this education to be like, oh, wait, we have an opportunity to do something different here based on all the lessons learned, something truly greener, right? And I think that as people go through this course, they'll be like, oh, wait, I need to rethink these things now that we have the abundance that is the actual gift of legalization. We can now say, oh, wait, perhaps outdoor grows are more sustainable. The sun is powerful, making richer, bigger trichomes, especially as a hash maker. I love that. But we also know now, data is showing us now that we can really dig in with HPLCs, look at that trichome and be like, the terpene profile might be the same indoor v outdoor, but wait, what about the ketones and esters that build up those terpenes? They're much richer with the power of the sun, right? So some misconceptions need to be cleared up, but also some time-honored formulations and concepts need to be brought forward as a standard. And I think doing that now is super important because, yeah, marketers and spinsters are constantly going to be looking for that new tech, that new nano and whatnot. And that's lot to keep up with as well, but we need a base. And so I was honored to kind of help provide some of that, especially from the formulation standpoint.
No doubt. And I thank you for bringing up some of these really important issues, Guy, on sustainability. We know that is, as an industry, we really need to be out in front on a lot of these issues. And we're finally starting to see brands, product makers, introduce sustainable initiatives, either reusing plastics, not introducing new plastics into our world, obviously. So in regulations, there are a lot of restrictions that kind of, require companies to make products a certain way when it comes to packaging, but at least we are seeing finally some breakthroughs when it comes to sustainability. And you brought up some really interesting points on indoor, outdoor grows, and, what we've talked to, a lot of industry sources that talk about, the long-term questions around indoor grows, especially in hot climates in the desert Southwest and in South Florida. Are they really viable long term? So I do appreciate you bringing up these excellent points. Kevin, let's get you into the fold and maybe just give us some few send off comments before I bring everyone back into the panel here.
Totally. You have cannabis, which is ancient, and the relationship with humans and cannabis is ancient. But the industry that we have, that we're building right now, is brand new. And the beauty of it is that what you're having is this attraction from all these other industries coming into cannabis. People want change in what they do, but they don't understand the applicability. And we're talking like with Guy, with fractal distillation, that's how you separate fuel. So you have this commonality between distilling gasoline and diesel, and the same as distilling the cannabinoids from cannabis. So what you have is this unbelievable cornucopia of complexity that's contained within this bioreactor we call cannabis, that allows all these other industries to be able to take a look and understand how they can now participate and add value. And the ability for them to understand that the end product is what is evaluated by the customer. And if the customer is unsatisfied with the end product, the product doesn't sell no matter what technology you apply to it. And so it's trying to get industry to understand how to work with the plant in a way that is beneficial for all, and to get the customer to understand how to use the new technology in a way that's beneficial for them. And when you start to create that duality of benefit, it starts to really drive home quality, because if the individuals who create the products understand the end desire and goal, they do a better job of creation. And if the people who are receiving products that are giving them efficacy, their consumption patterns allow you to be able to understand where to focus the new developmental efforts. And so you have to be able to have this duality of it. And the normality of cannabis is now, and like Max had mentioned earlier, we still have the stigma, but less and less. And the more we're able to parallel the traits, the more we're able to parallel connoisseurship, the more we're able to say these industries also utilize these same methodologies, technologies, ideologies, then what you start to have is a common resonance where individuals begin to understand the industry in a much more complete way than cannabis is this silo that's only cannabis. And I think that that's really the big takeaway, is that people start to understand that this plant is immeasurable in its benefit. We barely scratched the surface in any way we've seen it. And that together with industry, advice, and consumer, we'll actually build a beautiful industry moving forward. And I think that's what excites me most, that I've spent my whole life working in an industry to get to today. So today is really our new beginning, and being able to be part of this program and part of the project, and then to get to work with you. And I'll give a shout out to LinkedIn too, because it's great to have a platform that doesn't censor you. Yep. So it's just an incredible experience. So thank you so much.
Well, Kevin, I think that's a good way to end it before I bring everyone back in the fold. I love ending it up on uplifting, positive messages, especially as we head into the weekend. Enjoy our summer here. We've all kind of been through a lot of challenges in this space, and of course they're going to continue, but it's important to celebrate the W's. So let's do that. I want to bring in Max again. I want to bring in Derek to join the conversation. I'm going to bring in Kelly too. We're going to see if there's any questions from any audiences. and then we'll wrap it up and head on
Chris,
our way
when it,
for the
when it,
weekend.
when it comes to celebrating some W's, you had asked about mainstream adoption a few minutes ago,
Mhm.
and the conversation kind of went a little technical. Um, as far as mainstream adoption, I'm proud to say that the Ganjier is the first and thus only cannabis business that has been showcased on the NBC Today show.
Wow.
So that was national exposure on a very mainstream level.
Mhm.
More recently, we are in the current issue of Wine Enthusiast magazine. Again, first and only cannabis business to be showcased in Wine Enthusiast.
Oh, I think we just lost him. Just
Lost Darren.
It's such great news, though, Max. It's really exciting to see this program blossom. I've been a fan since it launched. I've watched some of your first cohorts with people like Ricky Williams. We've seen so much business bloom out of your program. I know we're at like the base of the product specialist piece, but can you talk a little bit more about some of the stories where you've seen businesses really elevate, or individuals coming out of your programs?
Yeah, I think the first thing I'll say is that there's a real confidence boost that comes from getting a credential like this. And what you see time and time again is there is a lot of people coming into cannabis that don't come from cannabis. They come from other sectors, whether it's agriculture or manufacturing or retail. And cannabis is so complex. Just for example, one of the things that we cover in depth in the program is all the different concentrate types. And when you start to look at all the different concentrate types, how they're made, which is all different form factors, why they're made that way, why they're consumed in different factors, why people prefer those different concentrate types. You can probably already guess as I'm saying this that there's big gaps in people's knowledge, that people don't understand these things. And if you're out there and you're creating these products or marketing these products or selling these products without that knowledge, you are destined to make a lot of mistakes, and people that then have any kind of knowledge or understanding are going to get immediately turned off from that business. And so what we found is that with people coming into this new Ganjier product specialist program, it's accessible, it's affordable, it's something that everybody can participate in, and they're getting then that training and credential, which then boosts their confidence. And already we're seeing companies that have invested in this early for some of their teams now bringing it to the rest of their teams, because they're seeing that those people that got certified are selling more products. They are opening up new accounts. They are contributing more successfully to the way that those products are being formulated or made. And we're seeing just a lot of very early indication that the confidence boost that people get by being more knowledgeable and having a credential behind them that stamps that validation gives them a real greater ability to contribute. But secondly, again, I mean, I think the business case, and I can't say this clearly enough, is that when you invest in their people, they invest back in the business. And so everybody knows that retention and turnover and all these kinds of are real big issues in the cannabis industry. And it's such an easy fix here to be able to start saying, let's start to offer this to our people as part of their employee training. Let's invest in these people and show them that we've got a pathway to skill them up, to make them confident, to show them that they matter. And as a result of that, again, we're seeing companies that their teams are saying, I'm staying here, I'm contributing because you invested in us first. And so I think that there's the value of the knowledge, there's the value of the credential, and then the businesses, there's a value in the businesses saying, you know what? In order to improve our performance, to slow down our churn, to increase retention, we're going to just spend a little bit extra to invest in our people. And as a result of that, we will get that back, 5, 10 times X on the back end in terms of contributions and involvement.
I'd like to add
Awesome.
to that.
Yeah, go ahead, Derek.
It's easy, it's very easy for us to tell you how great and wonderful the program is and how it will benefit you and or your business. Okay. Um, we're now entering the fourth year of administering the Ganjier program. There are currently over 300 certified Ganjiers globally. I assure you that you could reach out to any of them, whether it be a certified Ganjier, a graduate of the program, or an existing student of the program. Reach out, I guarantee there's somebody that you know or that you could find easily enough that you could ask directly their experience with the program, how it has directly benefited them, their career, and or their business. Because we've had dispensary owners come through. We've had pharmacists come through, medical doctors come through, bud tenders, multi-generational cannabis cultivators, third generation cannabis coming through the program and picking up knowledge that they didn't otherwise have. Okay. The nature of our program is really to round out someone's knowledge and education around cannabis, regardless of their existing experience level, whether it's just somebody just learning or somebody who feels like they know most everything. I guarantee you that you'll probably pick up something from Dr. Jeffrey Raber in the science course, or you'll pick up something you didn't know about genetics from Kev, or you'll pick up something you didn't know about consuming cannabis concentrates from Lena or Bell. So yeah, if you know, you can hear what we've said, but go and find someone who's either in the program or gone through the program. There's lots of them out there. Max touched upon Cookies and Curaleaf and Kiva all adopting the Ganjier Product Specialist program. That was because individuals from those companies came through our certified level. And coming through the certified level and coming out the other end, directly realized the value and benefits of that program and that education, and went back to those companies and actively began looking for ways to adopt that education into their businesses.
Awesome. Thank you. Guy, I have a question for you, being a products guy. I know in talking to people, having that person on the ground, whether it be retail management or a bud tender that can speak to these things, with product education, sometimes being a big challenge. How important is it to you and people in positions such as yours to have training like this?
Well, I think it's terribly important. Again, no offense to marketers, it is their job to spin and sell products. It's not their job to educate. I think that it's very important at the retail level that you have a knowledgeable person. When you go into a wine store and you're looking for a bottle of wine, you're often asked about the experience, about your palate, and a variety of things. The one thing you're not asked about is potency. It's irrelevant. That is shame in drug culture, right? So I think one of the great things about this program is it's going to give professionals more language to ask about the experience and to really get at what the users wants. Marketers will tell you, oh, they only spend with their dollars. They only want potency. I believe that's inaccurate. I think that is, again, just that, oh, safe access. I just want potency. I'm happy to get it, but that is not sustainable. The future, like in all other consumable products, is about the experience, right? And the experience is richer when we're educated. When we go into a Best Buy, we don't all go into the Magnolia room to buy the super expensive stuff, but we know it's there. And we may go in there and see what all those features are and see how those features apply to what we can afford. So price isn't everything, right? And I think without an educated retail body to really keep things level, marketers get to spin. And again, no offense to marketers, that's their job. But then our job should be to make sure that we have appropriate nomenclature and industry standards so that we can evaluate that spin and so the consumers ultimately can make the right choice and that our industry doesn't get vilified for misinformation and chaos, which is a little bit happening right now. And I think that this program will start to abate that as we all start to kind of row in the same direction with like, oh, these are the value proposition. This is the standard way of evaluating flower. This is the standard way of talking about infused products in the good, better, best model. And not everything is premium just because it's in a fancy package.
Thank you so much. Such good points. I have one final question. I'll open up to, all of you are the first taker, but one of our guests, Ricky Bashua, I probably got that wrong, but he's a cultivator in Brooklyn, New York, and he wanted to know how you think programs like Ganjier and education can be leveraged to help staff that's being often underpaid increase their wages, or where do you see the future of that going?
Oh man, I'll jump in on that one. Because what you have with education is the ability to leverage that education in communication. And so as a cultivator, you're creating products, the ability to understand how to highlight the product and how to help the individuals understand what products that they would best benefit from. And anytime you're driving value to the customer at a company, you are definitely noticed as that driver. There's no question, especially it was easy when I was at a business, and when I was at the business made twice the money. When I was not at the business, it made half as much money. It allowed the company to understand my impact on the cash register was dramatic. That impact on the cash register radically changes your position within a company. You start to have a very different feel because you're respected for what you're doing, and the customers are transmitting that satisfaction through the purchase. And so as a cultivator, or in anyone that's in the production end, the ability for you to take the products you're creating and highlight how to look at them correctly, and then allow the individuals to ask questions intelligently, where you're empowering them, not just to buy from you, but to buy anywhere, consume anywhere, speak to anyone anywhere. That's real knowledge. And that resonates, and it comes back as feedback to a company. And so I think with the turnover of cannabis, it's so aggressive that anything that you can do that solidifies your position and brings value to the brand, it lets you have better longevity within the job itself. And you are able to also negotiate new positions at other companies based off of that value. And I think that the workers need the leverage, because cannabis has changed from individuals having power to corporations having power. And the only way that the individual can, regather their value is to have something that's quantifiable about their value.
Yeah, I agree. And I would add, years ago when I sold cars, one of the first things they told us is, you're not trying to sell the consumer one car, you're trying to sell them a bunch of cars. And the way you do that is you educate them on your car specifically and cars in general. And I think right now, the focus specifically on potency, the focus specifically on price point, doesn't endear the consumer. Knowledge endears the consumer. The more you know, the better it gets, right? Every time you learn something about cannabis, we all love to nerd out on our purchases. It makes that experience better. And if you have a bud tender that is driving revenue, but also making the consumer feel held and heard, that consumer is going to come back. And that builds the business even beyond that individual. So from a business perspective, even if you can't track what your individuals are doing, you should know that if I am having individuals that are knowledgeable and I've invested in them, then they are going to create sticky customers that are going to want to come back to my place because they have that air of legitimacy, which, again, no offense to anybody, many dispensaries are still missing out on. It's already bad enough that we have to have the whole ID thing, and some of them have to have the weird gating. It's on us to make them feel as super comfortable when they're inside, and make sure that they're heard, and make sure that we can really articulate the different values of the cannabis products and meet their needs.
So well said. Well, I'm going to kick it back over to you, Chris. But before we sign off, we hope to see everybody at MJ BizCon. It's December 3rd through 6th in Las Vegas. Check out the Ganjier program offered with MJ BizCon. We dropped some info in the chat, and we'll follow up with an email. Over to you, Chris.
Thank you, Kelly, for the handoff. I just want to thank our panelists. Everyone was fantastic here, brought a lot of energy, positive energy too. Max, Derek, Guy, and Kevin. I just want to say thanks again from the MJ Biz team. We hope to see all you in Vegas in December. We are so looking forward to having this event. And let's sign off. Let's have a great weekend, everyone. Happy Friday.
Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you.
See
Bye,
you.
y'all.
See you in
Vegas,
Vegas.
September.
Can't wait.
See you guys.